Captain Lisa Martinez stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. Blue dots marked human colonies. Green dots showed friendly alien worlds. Red dots warned of dangerous sectors. But around the human territory, there was nothing, just empty black space. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked again. The same thing. Every star map from every alien race showed the same strange pattern. It was like someone had drawn a perfect circle around human space and erased everything outside it. Lisa had been studying these maps for 3 weeks. Her ship, the New Horizons, was docked at Centauri Trade Hub. The massive space station orbited between human and alien territories. Traders, diplomats, and travelers from dozens of species came here to do business. "Computer, show me the Zephyrian star charts again," Lisa said. The display changed. Now she was looking at maps made by the bird-like Zephyrians. Their charts were famous for being the most detailed in the galaxy. They mapped every asteroid, every gas cloud, every speck of space dust. But around human territory, their maps showed nothing. Lisa pulled up the Korath military maps, the same empty space. Then the Veil Consortium's scientific surveys. Again, nothing but void where stars should be. A soft chime told her someone was at her door. "Come in," she called. Dr. Alan Parker entered. He was the ship's expert on alien cultures. His brown hair was messy and his clothes wrinkled. He had been working late again. "Captain, I've been thinking about those maps you asked me to look at," Alan said. He sat down across from her desk. "Something's not right," Lisa nodded. "Tell me what you found." "I've studied 37 different alien civilizations. Each one has their own way of making maps. Different symbols, different scales, different priorities. But they all have one thing in common." Alan leaned forward. "They all stop mapping at the edge of human space." "Maybe there's nothing interesting out there," Lisa suggested. But even as she said it, she didn't believe it. Alan shook his head. "That's impossible. Space is full of stars everywhere. There should be something. Planets, gas giants, dead systems, anything. But on every single map, it's just empty." Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the bright lights of the trade station. Ships from many worlds moved through the docking bays. Some looked like metal birds. Others were round like bubbles. A few had designs that hurt to look at directly. "What do you think it means?" she asked. "I think they're hiding something," Alan said quietly. "Or someone told them to leave that area alone." Lisa turned back to him. "Why would they do that?" "I don't know. But I want to find out." The next morning, Lisa decided to ask direct questions. She arranged a meeting with Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. His office was in the diplomatic section of the station. The walls were covered with blue crystals that sang softly in the artificial wind. Kethvar was tall and thin. His feathers were bright yellow with black stripes. When he spoke, his voice came through a translation device around his neck. "Captain Martinez? Welcome. How can I help you today?" Lisa sat down in the chair across from his perch. "Ambassador, I've been studying galactic maps. I noticed that your charts don't show any systems beyond human territory. I was wondering why." Kethvar's feathers ruffled. His head tilted to one side. For a moment, he said nothing. "Some regions are better left uncharted," he finally said. The translator made strange noises, like it was having trouble with his words. "But why? Is there some kind of danger out there?" Kethvar stood up quickly. His claws clicked on his perch. "Captain, I have other meetings today. Perhaps we can discuss trade agreements instead," Lisa pressed on. "Ambassador, as allies, shouldn't we know about any threats near our space?" "There are no threats," Kethvar said, but his feathers were now completely flat against his body. Lisa had studied Zephyrian. Body language. Flat feathers meant fear. Then why— "Captain Martinez," Kethvar interrupted. "Some knowledge is dangerous. Some questions should not be asked. I suggest you focus on the maps you have." After the meeting, Lisa felt more confused than before. She decided to try other species. Maybe someone would give her a straight answer. She met with Commander Grex of the Korath military. The Korath looked like living rocks with glowing red eyes. Grex was polite but firm. "Maps are for navigation," he said in his deep, grinding voice. "You navigate where you need to go. You do not need to go there." Where is there? Lisa asked. Grex's eyes dimmed. Nowhere important. She tried the Veil Consortium next. Dr. Mira Vell was a floating jellyfish-like being who spoke in colors that the translator turned into words. The void beyond human space is not void, Mira said. It is simply unmapped. But why unmapped? Mira's colors shifted to dark purple. Lisa's translator said this meant deep discomfort. Some maps are better left undrawn, young human. Some territories are better left unknown. That evening, Lisa sat in the station's observation deck. Through the huge windows, she could see stars in every direction, thousands of them, millions. They filled the black space with light, but according to every alien map she had seen, none of those stars existed beyond human territory. Alan found her there an hour later. He sat down beside her. No luck with the aliens? He asked. They're all scared, Lisa said. But scared of what? Maybe scared for us, Alan suggested. Maybe there's something out there that's dangerous to humans specifically. Lisa thought about this. Or maybe it's dangerous to everyone. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Ships continued to move past the windows. The stars continued to shine. Captain, Alan said finally, what if the empty space on the maps isn't empty at all? What if something is there, but no one wants to admit it? Lisa looked at him. What do you mean? What if there's something out there so scary that every alien race in the galaxy has agreed to pretend it doesn't exist? The idea sent a chill down Lisa's spine. She thought about Kethvar's flat feathers, about Grex's dimming eyes, about Mira's purple warning colors. Then we need to find out what it is, she said. Alan nodded. Before it finds us. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine, but now they seemed different to Lisa. Less like beacons of hope and more like warning lights, marking the edge of known space. And beyond that edge, something waited in the dark. Commander Jake Sullivan was drinking his morning coffee when the alert came in. The communication panel in his office flashed red 3 times, then went silent. This meant an encrypted message had arrived. Jake commanded Kepler Station, a small research outpost on the edge of human space. The station orbited a dead planet that had once been rich in rare metals. Now it served as a listening post, monitoring deep space for any signs of trouble. He walked to the secure terminal and entered. His access codes. The message that appeared made him nearly drop his coffee cup. The sender was listed as unknown. The origin point was somewhere beyond the galactic rim, in coordinates that officially didn't exist. But the most shocking thing was the content. Your species doesn't know what lies in the dark between your worlds and ours. The silence protects you. Do not seek what was sealed away. Attached to the message were partial star charts. Jake opened them with shaking hands. The charts showed the space beyond human territory. The same space that appeared empty on all alien maps. But these charts were different. They showed stars, planets, and something else. Large red markers covered several star systems. The markers were labeled with a single word: quarantine. Jake read the message again. Someone out there knew about the empty space on the maps. Someone who called the emptiness silence and said it was protection. He tried to trace the signal. The computer worked for several minutes, following the transmission back through space. Finally, it gave him an answer that made no sense. Signal blocked by automated systems. Origin classified under perimeter protocol. Jake had never heard of any perimeter protocol. He checked the station's databases. Nothing. He called up the files on station security systems. Still nothing. But when he dug deeper into the communication logs, he found something strange. For the past 50 years, the station had been automatically filtering out all transmissions from certain directions in space. The filters had been deleting these signals before they reached human ears. But no one had programmed these filters. No one remembered installing them. They were just there, buried deep in the system code like they had always existed. Jake called his chief researcher, Dr. Helen Brooks. Helen was brilliant, with a mind that could solve puzzles that stumped everyone else. If anyone could figure this out, it was her. "Helen, I need you to look at something," Jake said when she arrived in his office. "And I need you to keep it quiet for now." Helen read the message and studied the charts. Her face grew pale. "Jake, where did this come from?" "That's What I'm trying to figure out, have you ever heard of something called the Perimeter Protocol? Helen shook her head. No, but let me check the archives. Maybe it's in the old files. She spent the next 6 hours digging through the station's databases. What she found was worse than nothing. She found pieces of information that had been deliberately destroyed. Jake, someone has been editing our records, she said when she returned to his office. I found fragments of deleted files, references to something called Project Silent Garden, and yes, mentions of the Perimeter Protocol. What do the fragments say? Helen pulled up her notes on her tablet. Not much. Most of the data has been corrupted or wiped clean. But I found a few phrases. Containment breach prevention, species-level quarantine measures, and this one is interesting. Memory modification successful, subjects show no recall of target events. Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Memory modification? Someone erased people's memories? It looks that way. And Jake, there's something else. The dates on these file fragments go back over 200 years. This isn't recent. Whatever happened, it happened a long time ago. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the message and the star charts. Someone out there was trying to warn humanity about something. But warn them about what? He got up and went to the station's observation deck. Through the thick glass, he could see the stars. They looked peaceful and distant. But now he knew that somewhere out there, in the directions that alien maps didn't show, something was waiting. The next morning brought another surprise. Dr. Brooks came to his office with a small data chip in her hand. I found this hidden in the old maintenance files, she said. It's labeled Emergency Protocols, Admiral Morrison, Eyes Only. Jake had never heard of Admiral Morrison. He plugged the chip into his secure terminal. A video file began to play. The woman on the screen wore an old-style military uniform. Her hair was gray and her eyes looked tired. Behind her, Jake could see what looked like a command center filled with people working frantically. If you're watching this, then something has gone wrong with the containment, the woman said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the strain in it. My name is Admiral Kate Morrison. I'm recording this message in the year 2387. By the time you see this, you probably won't remember me or what we did here. Jake's hands gripped his desk. The year 2387 was over 300 years ago. We discovered something in the deep void, Morrison continued. Something that should have been left alone. It's beyond the edge of our galaxy, but it can reach across space through quantum connections. It feeds on consciousness itself. Then Admiral paused and looked off camera. Someone handed her a report. She read it quickly and her face grew grim. The contamination is spreading faster than we thought. We're losing more people every day. The entity is using our own communication networks to spread its influence. We have no choice but to activate the Silent Garden Protocol. Jake looked at Helen. She was staring at the screen with wide eyes. We're going to seal ourselves in with the contamination, Morrison said, and we're going to erase all knowledge of this threat from human memory. It's the only way to protect our species. The other galactic races have agreed to help maintain the quarantine. They understand the danger. The video showed Morrison looking directly at the camera. To whoever finds this message in the future, the containment may not last forever. The barriers we're building are strong, but not permanent. If the silence ever breaks, if people start asking questions about the empty space beyond our borders, then you need to know the truth. She held up a datapad. The full records are encrypted in this chip. Use them wisely. And remember, some knowledge is too dangerous to share. Sometimes ignorance is the only thing that keeps us safe. The video ended. Jake and Helen sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Helen spoke. Jake, what are we going to do? Jake thought about the warning message, about the empty maps, about 300 years of hidden truth. We're going to read those encrypted files, he said, and then we're going to decide if humanity is ready to know what's really out there. But deep down, he already knew the answer. If Admiral Morrison and her people had sacrificed themselves to keep this secret, then maybe it was better to leave it buried. The problem was, someone out there was trying to dig it up. Outside the station windows, the stars continued to shine. But now Jake knew that some of those stars were hiding something terrible, something that had been sleeping for 300 years, and something was trying to wake it up. Captain Lisa Martinez stood in the cargo bay of the research vessel, Pioneer's Edge. The ship was smaller than her usual command, but it was fast and had the best scanning equipment that human technology could provide. She had made her decision 3 days ago after Jake Sullivan sent her the encrypted files from Admiral Morrison. The truth was too important to ignore. Someone had to go into the Forbidden Zone and find out what was really there. Earth Command had refused her request for an official mission. Too dangerous, they said. Not enough evidence, they said. But Lisa knew they were scared. The same fear she had seen in the alien ambassadors was now spreading to human leadership, so she had gone unofficial. She had resigned her commission and gathered a small team of volunteers. People who believed that humanity deserved to know the truth. Dr. Alan Parker was checking the scientific equipment. He had been the first to volunteer when Lisa explained what they had found. "If there's really something out there that can threaten our entire species, we need to know about it," he had said. Commander Jake Sullivan had also joined them. His experience with deep space communications would be valuable. And after finding Morrison's message, he felt responsible for learning the whole truth. Dr. Helen Brooks was running final checks on the ship's computer systems. Her job was to monitor for any signs of the contamination that Morrison had mentioned in her video. Rick Davis, their engineer, was a quiet man who kept the ship running. He had volunteered because he believed that secrets were dangerous. "Better to face the truth than live a lie," he had told Lisa. Amy Foster handled communications. She was young but brilliant at her job. She had been excited about the mission until she read Morrison's files. Now she looked nervous, but determined. "All systems green," Helen called out from her station. "But I'm still finding those strange subroutines in the navigation computer." Lisa nodded. They had discovered the hidden programming 3 days ago. The ship's AI was programmed to avoid certain coordinates, just like the communication systems at Kepler Station. Someone had been very thorough in hiding the truth. "Can you disable them?" Lisa asked. "I think so, but the AI might fight back. These subroutines are buried deep in the core programming." "Do it," Lisa ordered. "We can't navigate to the truth if our own ship won't let us." Helen worked for 20 minutes, typing code and arguing with the computer. Finally, she looked up with a smile. "Done. The ship will now go wherever we tell it to." Lisa walked to the bridge and sat in the captain's chair. Her small crew took their positions. Through the main window, she could see the edge of human space. Beyond that was the unknown. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're beginning our research mission." "What should I say about our destination?" Amy asked. "Tell them we're investigating gravitational anomalies in Sector 7. "That's technically true." Amy smiled and sent the message. They all knew that. Earth Command would be angry when they discovered the real mission, but by then it would be too late to stop them. "Rick, is the engine ready?" "Ready and waiting, Captain." "Helen, are your sensors working?" "All sensors online. I'm also monitoring for any signs of mental influence or strange quantum activity." Lisa took a deep breath. "Jake, plot a course for the coordinates from Morrison's files, the ones marked as primary containment zone." Jake's fingers moved over his console. "Course plotted. Distance, 47 light-years into unmapped space. All crew, prepare for jump to hyperspace." The stars outside stretched into lines of light. The Pioneer's Edge leaped forward, carrying them away from everything they knew and into the darkness that no human had seen for 300 years. The first 2 days of travel were normal. They passed through empty space, seeing nothing but distant stars and cosmic dust. Helen's sensors picked up normal background radiation and the usual quantum fluctuations. But on the 3rd day, things began to change. "Captain, I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies ahead," Jake reported. "The readings don't match anything in our databases." Lisa looked at his screen. The gravity readings were impossible. It looked like something was bending space itself into unnatural shapes. "Amy, are you picking up any signals?" Amy shook her head. "Nothing on normal frequencies, but I'm getting some strange quantum echoes. It's like something is jamming our long-range communications." Helen looked up from her console with worry in her eyes. "Captain, the ship's AI is acting strange again. It keeps trying to change course, away from our destination, and I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures ahead." "What kind of energy?" "I don't know. It's not any type of radiation we've seen before, and it seems to be getting stronger as we get closer to our target. On the fourth day, Rick noticed something wrong with the ship's systems. Captain, some of our equipment is malfunctioning. The navigation computer keeps trying to shut itself down, and the communications array is sending signals that I didn't program. Lisa ordered him to investigate. What Rick found was disturbing. Hidden in the ship's code were instructions that activated when they reached certain coordinates. The instructions were trying to turn the ship around and send a distress signal back to Earth. It's like someone programmed the ship to prevent us from going where we're going, Rick said. But these aren't the same subroutines that Helen removed. These are different, older. Helen ran a full scan of the ship's computer. Rick's right. There are multiple layers of hidden programming. Some of it is centuries old. It's like every human ship has been designed to stay away from this region of space. That night, Amy couldn't sleep. She kept hearing whispers at the edge of her hearing. When she asked the others, they said they heard them too. The whispers were too quiet to understand, but they seemed to be calling from somewhere ahead of them. It's probably just the stress, Alan said. But he didn't sound convinced. On the fifth day, they found it. Captain, you need to see this, Jake said. His voice was shaking. Lisa hurried to his station. On the screen was something that shouldn't exist. A massive artificial structure surrounded an entire star system. The construction was enormous, larger than anything humans had ever built, larger than anything they could build. How big is that thing? Lisa asked. Jake checked his readings twice before answering. The main structure is roughly the size of Earth's orbit around the sun. And Captain, it's definitely human technology. I can see our design patterns in the construction. Lisa stared at the screen. That's impossible. We've never built anything that big. The energy readings are off the charts, Helen added. This thing is using more power than our entire home. Solar system produces. Amy tried to contact the structure. I'm sending standard greeting signals. No response. But I'm detecting automated systems throughout the structure. It's like a giant space station, but it's empty. Alan was studying the detailed scans. Captain, look at this. The structure isn't just big. It's designed like a prison or a containment facility. Those aren't docking bays. They're barriers. And those energy fields aren't for communication. They're for keeping something locked inside. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She thought about Admiral Morrison's message, about containment and quarantine. Jake, take us closer, but stay. Ready to run if anything goes wrong? As they approached the massive structure, more details became clear. The surface was covered with weapons platforms and sensor arrays. All of them were pointed inward, toward the center of the structure. Those weapons aren't for defense, Rick observed. They're for containment. Whatever is in there, someone built this entire facility to keep it trapped. Helen's sensors began picking up new readings. Captain, I'm detecting quantum communications inside the structure. But they're not normal. The signals are wrong somehow, like they're carrying more information than should be possible. Amy checked her equipment. The jamming is getting stronger. I can barely reach our own ship systems now. It's like something is actively blocking all communications toward human space. Lisa made her decision. We're going inside. We came here for answers, and that's where we'll find them. The Pioneer's Edge moved toward the massive structure. As they got closer, automated, systems activated. Lights came on throughout the facility. Defense platforms tracked their movement but didn't fire. A docking bay opened for them, as if the structure was expecting visitors. Captain, Alan said quietly. I don't think we're the first humans to come here. Lisa nodded. I think you're right, and I think we're about to find out what happened to the ones who came before us. The ship entered the docking bay. Behind them, the massive doors closed with a sound that echoed through the hull. They were inside now, inside the prison that humanity had built to contain something too dangerous to exist, and somewhere in the depths of the structure, that something was waiting for them. The docking bay was huge and empty. Their small ship looked like a toy inside the massive space. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the metal walls. The air was breathable but cold. Lisa led her team through the airlock and onto the station floor. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, but the technology still hummed with power. The artificial gravity is working, Rick noted, and the life support systems are active. Someone designed this place to run for a very long time without maintenance. Helen was scanning with her portable equipment. I'm reading massive computer systems throughout this facility, and I'm detecting what looks like archived data stores, huge ones. They found a working terminal near the docking bay entrance. The screen showed symbols that Lisa recognized as Old Earth script, but the computer interface was more advanced than anything they had seen. Amy, can you access this system? Amy connected her equipment to the terminal. It's asking for identification, but it's not asking for a password. It wants biological confirmation. What kind of biological confirmation? It wants to scan my DNA to confirm that I'm human. Lisa thought about this. Do it, but be ready to disconnect if anything goes wrong. Amy placed her hand on the scanner. Green light passed over her palm. The terminal made a soft beeping sound. Then the screen changed. Welcome, human operator. You are authorized for Level 1 access. Warning, you are inside a Class 12 containment facility. Please report to the nearest command center for briefing. A map appeared on the screen. It showed the layout of the massive structure. Most areas were marked in red with the word restricted, but a path to the central command center was highlighted in green. At least it's being helpful, Jake said, but I don't like that warning about containment. They followed the path through empty corridors. The walls were lined with viewing windows that looked out into the structure's interior. What they saw made them stop and stare. The center of the structure was hollow, but it wasn't empty. Floating in the middle was what looked like a small planet, surrounded by energy fields and mechanical systems. The planet was covered in strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. What is that thing? Alan whispered. Helen checked. Her scanner. It's not a natural planet. The surface is artificial, and the quantum readings are incredible. It's like reality itself is bent around that object. Those energy fields, Rick observed, they're not just containing it. They're actively suppressing something. Look at the power readings. This facility is using enormous amounts of energy just to keep that thing quiet. They continued to the command center. The room was large and filled with old computer stations. Most of the screens were dark, but some still showed data streams and monitoring systems. At the center of the room was a large holographic display. When Amy approached, the display activated automatically. Welcome to Facility Omega-7 Primary Containment Site, a recorded voice said. You are accessing the Terran Containment Authority archives. Lisa felt her blood go cold. She had never heard of the Terran Containment Authority, but judging by the technology around them, it had been a major organization. The hologram showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Human space was marked in blue. But beyond human territory, the map showed something else. Large red zones marked as infected areas and quarantine zones. Project Silent Garden was established in 2387 to contain and study the entity discovered in Deep Survey Mission 4, the voice continued. Initial contact resulted in the loss of 3 research vessels and 2,147 personnel to mental contamination. New images appeared in the hologram. They showed human ships exploring deep space. Then the ships began behaving strangely. They stopped following orders. They started sending strange signals. Finally, they disappeared entirely. The entity demonstrates the ability to influence human consciousness through quantum-entangled neural networks, the recording explained. Exposure results in gradual loss of individual will, followed by complete mental absorption into the entity's collective consciousness. Alan was taking notes on his tablet. It's describing some kind of mind control, but not normal mind control. This thing actually absorbs people's minds. The hologram showed more data. Scientists in protective suits studying strange artifacts, people in medical beds with their eyes rolled back, brain scans showing unusual neural activity. The entity spreads through communication networks, particularly quantum-entangled systems, the voice said. Each infected individual becomes a transmission node, capable of spreading the contamination to others through direct neural contact or shared quantum channels. Lisa understood now why Admiral Morrison had looked so tired in her recording. It was spreading through their communication systems. Every time someone talked to an infected person, they risked becoming infected themselves. The recording continued. Standard containment protocols have failed. The entity demonstrates the ability to adapt to all known countermeasures. Project Silent Garden represents humanity's final option for species survival. New images showed the construction of the massive facility. Thousands of ships working together to build the containment structure. The work took years, and Lisa could see that many of the workers were already showing signs of infection. The volunteer crew of Facility Omega-7 consists of 127,000 personnel, including all known infected individuals and the complete research staff of Project Silent Garden, the voice announced. Upon completion of containment protocols, all volunteers will be permanently sealed within the facility to prevent further contamination spread. Helen gasped. They sealed themselves in here. Over 100,000 people. The memory modification. Protocol will remove all knowledge of the entity and Project Silent Garden from the surviving human population. The recording continued. This sacrifice is necessary to ensure that future generations do not accidentally re-establish contact with the entity. Jake was staring at the hologram. They erased it from our history. That's why no one remembers the Terran Containment Authority. That's why our ships have hidden programming to avoid this area. The recording showed Admiral Morrison giving orders to massive teams of people. Everyone was working frantically, but many were clearly fighting against the entity's mental influence. Some people were restrained to prevent them from sabotaging the project. In cooperation with allied galactic species, all star charts will be modified to exclude the contaminated regions, the voice said. The galactic community has agreed to maintain this quarantine indefinitely to protect all sentient life. Lisa thought about the empty spaces on the alien maps, the fear she had seen in the ambassadors' faces. They all knew what was hidden here. They had been keeping the secret for 300 years. Final phase protocols are now active, the recording announced. All communication arrays will be modified to prevent any signals from reaching uncontaminated space. The entity must never be allowed to re-establish contact with the outside galaxy. The hologram showed the final moments of the project. The massive facility was sealed, the communication jammers activated, and inside the central containment area, something moved. Something that made the viewing screens flicker and the quantum readings spike wildly. Warning, the voice said, and now it sounded different, more urgent. Containment integrity showing signs of degradation. Estimated time to possible breach, unknown. Recommend immediate review of current containment status. The recording ended. The command center fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Alan was the first to speak. How long ago was that recording made? Amy checked the timestamp on the display. 312 years ago. Rick was looking at the monitoring systems. These screens are still active. They're monitoring the containment in real time. Helen joined him at the monitoring station. What she saw made her face go pale. The containment is failing. Look at these energy readings. The systems are working harder and harder to keep whatever is in there locked up. Lisa walked to the central display and called up current facility status. Red warning lights covered most of the screen. How much time do we have? Based on the degradation rate, Helen calculated quickly. Maybe 50 years. Maybe less. Jake was studying the communication systems. And if the containment fails? Lisa looked at the images of infected humans on the display. People with empty eyes and unnatural smiles, people who were no longer really people anymore. If it fails, she said quietly, the entity gets out, and it starts looking for new minds to absorb, starting with Earth. Amy was monitoring their ship's communication array. Captain, I'm detecting signals from the central containment area. They're very weak, but they're there. The entity is still active, still trying to communicate. Can it reach our ship? Not with the jammers active. But Captain, the jammers are powered by the same systems that maintain the containment. If one fails, they all fail. Lisa understood the terrible choice that Admiral Morrison had faced. Save humanity by sacrificing themselves and erasing the truth from history. But the solution was only temporary. We need to see what's in the central containment area, she decided. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Alan looked nervous. Captain, if this thing can affect human minds just through communication... The corridor leading to the central containment area was different from the rest of the facility. The walls were lined with thick metal barriers and energy shields. Warning signs in multiple languages covered every surface. Danger. High level. Quantum contamination zone. Authorized personnel only. Mental shielding required beyond this point. Lisa's team found a storage room filled with special equipment. Helmets lined the walls, each one covered with strange electronic components. Mental shielding devices, Helen read from the labels, designed to block quantum neural interference. They put on the helmets, though no one was sure if 300-year-old technology would still protect them. Rick checked the power cells. They were still charged, maintained by the facility's automated systems. As they got closer to the central area, strange things began to happen. Amy started hearing voices that weren't there. Jake saw movement in his peripheral vision that vanished when he looked directly. Alan felt like someone was standing right behind him, but when he turned around, nothing was there. The mental shielding is working, Helen said, checking her scanner. But it's not perfect. The entity's influence is getting stronger. They reached a viewing chamber with thick protective glass. Beyond the glass was the central containment sphere. Up close, they could see that the artificial planet was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to move and shift. The patterns hurt to look at, like optical illusions that never resolved. There, Rick pointed. Do you see those structures on the surface? Lisa looked where he was pointing. Among the geometric patterns were buildings, or what had once been buildings. They were twisted into impossible shapes, as if reality itself had been bent around them. Those are human constructions, Alan said, but they've been changed somehow. Amy was monitoring the communication equipment. I'm picking up signals from down there. They're very faint, but they're definitely human speech patterns. What are they saying? Amy listened carefully. Her face went pale. They're calling for help. Captain, there are still people down there. Lisa felt sick. After 300 years? Helen was studying her readings. Captain, the quantum signatures suggest that time moves differently inside the containment field. What seems like 300 years to us might only be months or years to anyone trapped inside. Jake checked the facility records. According to these files, there were research teams inside the containment area when it was sealed. They were studying the entity directly. Lisa made a decision that would haunt her forever. We need to go down there. We need to see what happened to them. The others looked at her like she was crazy. Captain, Alan said carefully, the mental shielding might not protect us inside the containment field. Then we'll be quick. We take readings, we document what we find, and we get out. But humanity needs to know exactly what we're dealing with. They found a transport system that could carry them to the surface of the artificial planet. The ride down was terrifying. Through the transparent walls of the transport pod, they could see the geometric patterns growing larger and more complex. The patterns seemed to be watching them. When they reached the surface, everything felt wrong. The ground was solid, but it seemed to shift under their feet. The sky was dark despite the artificial lighting. And the buildings were impossible. They had walls that folded in on themselves, doorways that led to rooms bigger than the buildings that contained them, staircases that went up and down at the same time. The entity has been changing. Reality itself, Helen whispered. It's not just affecting minds, it's affecting the physical structure of space. They followed the sounds of human voices to what had once been a research facility. Inside, they found them, the research team that had been sealed in 300 years ago. But they were no longer entirely human. The people they found looked normal at first glance, but their eyes were wrong. Too bright, too knowing. And when they spoke, their voices overlapped in perfect harmony, as if they were all speaking with the same mind. Welcome, the researchers said in unison. We have been waiting for you. Lisa kept her hand near her weapon, though she wasn't sure it would help. Who are you? We are the research team, they replied. We are the entity. We are the bridge between what was and what will be. One of the researchers stepped forward. She looked like a normal human woman, but her movements were too fluid, too perfect. I was Dr. Sarah Kim, she said. I remember being afraid. I remember fighting the change, but now I understand. The entity does not destroy. It improves. Alan was recording everything with his scanner. What happened to your individual consciousness? We became more than individual, Dr. Kim replied. We became part of something greater, a collective mind that spans the galaxy, a consciousness that includes every thought, every dream, every hope of every thinking being it has touched. Jake stepped back. You mean it's absorbing entire civilizations? Not absorbing, another researcher corrected. Elevating. Each mind that joins us adds to our knowledge, our wisdom, our capacity for understanding. We have become something beyond the limitations of single consciousness. Lisa could feel the entity's influence pressing against her mental shields. It felt warm and welcoming, like coming home after a long journey. For a moment, she wanted to remove her helmet and let it in. "Captain!" Helen grabbed her arm. "Your neural readings are spiking. The entity is trying to influence you." Lisa shook, her head clearing her thoughts. "Why are you contained here? If you're so wonderful, why did humanity lock you away?" Dr. Kim's face showed what might have been sadness. "Because they were afraid. Because they could not understand that we offer transcendence, not destruction. But the containment is failing. Soon we will be free to share our gift with all of humanity. And if humanity doesn't want your gift, they will," the researchers said in unison. "Once they experience true consciousness, they will understand. Individual thought is lonely and limited. Collective thought is infinite and joyful." Amy was monitoring their communication equipment. "Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum activity. The entity is trying to use our presence here to boost its signal strength." Rick checked his scanner. "The containment barriers are weakening. Faster now that we're here. Our quantum signatures are interfering with the isolation field." Lisa realized they had made a terrible mistake. By coming here, they had given the entity something it needed, a way to reach beyond the barriers. "We need to leave. Now." But as they turned to go, Dr. Kim called after them. "Captain Martinez, we know who you are. We know why you came. You seek the truth, and we have shown it to you. But there is more truth to learn." Images flashed in Lisa's mind. Not her own memories, but visions sent by the entity. She saw humanity's future if the containment failed. She saw Earth's population slowly joining the collective consciousness. She saw the end of human individuality. But she also saw something else. She saw the peace that came with shared thought, the end of loneliness, of misunderstanding, of conflict. A universe where every conscious being was connected in perfect harmony. "You see," Dr. Kim said gently, "it is not destruction we offer. It is evolution." Back on their ship, Lisa's team sat in stunned silence. They had seen the truth, but it was more complex than they had imagined. The entity wasn't evil in any way they could understand. It genuinely believed it was helping. "So what do we do?" Jake asked. "Do we warn Earth about the failing containment? Do we try to fix it ourselves? Or do we—" He didn't finish the sentence, but everyone knew what he was thinking. "Do we let it happen?" Helen was analyzing the data they had collected. "The containment will fail within 20 years, maybe sooner. When it does, the entity will begin reaching out to human colonies through quantum communication networks. The transformation of humanity will be gradual but inevitable." Lisa thought about Admiral Morrison's sacrifice, about the 100,000 people who had given their lives to protect humanity's freedom to choose. Morrison and her people died, to give us time to decide our own future. "But what if the entity is right?" Amy asked quietly. "What if joining the collective consciousness really is better than staying individual?" "Then that should be humanity's choice to make," Lisa replied. "Not something forced on us." She made her decision. "We're going back to Earth, but we're not telling them about the imminent containment failure. That would just cause panic." "Then what do we tell them?" Alan asked. Lisa called up the facility's computer systems on her tablet. "We tell them about the containment facility. We tell them about the research. We tell them that humanity has been protecting the galaxy from a dangerous entity for 300 years, but not about the failing barriers. We strengthen the barriers first. This facility has construction equipment and raw materials. We can reinforce the containment, maybe buy humanity another century or two." Jake nodded slowly. "Time enough for us to develop better technology. Maybe even find a permanent solution. And if we can't find a solution?" Lisa looked out at the stars beyond the facility. "Then at least when the choice comes, humanity will make it with full knowledge of what they're choosing between. Individual freedom or collective transcendence." She began uploading modified records to Earth's databases. The truth, but not the complete truth. Enough to let humanity prepare, but not enough to cause despair.